2 gunshots fired, 2 men from Glasgow gunned down in seconds. It happened just after the Champions League final inside Monaghan's bar in Fuengirola, Spain, a busy beachfront spot packed with tourists, music and noise. Ross Monaghan, 43, and Eddie Lyons Jr., 46, were sitting among friends, drinking, laughing, completely unaware that someone had been tracking them for days. At around 11:30 p.m, a masked gunman entered the street outside. Witnesses said he moved with purpose. No shouting, no panic, just focus. He didn't burst in with chaos. He waited until the perfect moment, when the final whistle blew and the bar erupted, and then pulled the trigger. 2 sharp cracks tore through the sound of celebration. 1 bullet hit Lyons Jr. as he sat outside. The crowd froze, unsure what had just happened. Then came the screams. The shooter's weapon jammed for a split second, that mechanical pause that could have changed everything. But instead of running, he stayed calm, unjammed it like someone who'd done it before, and went straight back to the job. That small detail told investigators everything they needed to know. This wasn't a hot-headed street gunman. This was a professional hit carried out with training and control. Monaghan saw the weapon misfire and tried to run inside. He'd lived through gunfire before. He'd survived an ambush in Glasgow years earlier when a man pushed a baby stroller up to him and opened fire outside a primary school. But this time, there was no escape. CCTV from inside the bar shows Monaghan sprinting past tables, knocking over chairs, shouting for help. Behind him, the gunman follows at a steady pace, not rushing, not shouting, just moving with deadly precision. Holidaymakers ducked under tables as the shooter raised his weapon again and fired. Glass shattered. Music cut out. Monaghan collapsed near the bar counter. The killer checked his surroundings, lowered the gun, and walked out. Not a word spoken, not a single shot wasted. Outside, panic erupted. Tourists stumbled into the streets. Some thought it was a terror attack. Others ran for cover behind parked cars. But by the time the first police unit arrived, the gunman was already gone. His escape route was as meticulous as the hit itself. He didn't take the main road. Instead, he cut through a back alley, climbed over a wall, and crossed the train tracks behind the bar. Spanish police later discovered that this tunnel section had almost no working security cameras, suggesting it had been chosen deliberately. Every step was planned. From there, he vanished into the night. Investigators say he crossed into Portugal by car before catching a flight to Leeds under a fake identity. Within days, he changed addresses 3 times around Liverpool, staying just long enough to collect supplies and move on. But Spanish detectives, working with the NCA, had already matched the CCTV footage with phone data and surveillance intelligence. The suspect's name came out weeks later: Michael Riley, 44, from Huyton, Liverpool. A man with alleged ties to the Glasgow-based Daniel Gang, the same organisation the victims had been fighting for decades. Spanish police say this was no freelance contract killing, it was payback, an internal job carried out by one of the Daniel crew's own. Chief Superintendent Pedro Agudo Novo described the double murder as executed with military efficiency. He said the killer's escape showed preparation, reconnaissance, and precision typical of trained professionals. Investigators believe Riley had scouted the bar days before, mapping exits, CCTV angles, and even lighting changes. He knew exactly where his target sat. Police Scotland initially dismissed links to the ongoing Glasgow feud, but Spanish authorities doubled down. To them, this was the latest chapter in a 25-year blood war between the Lyons and Daniel families, 2 gangs that turned Glasgow streets into a battlefield in the early 2000s. What made this case even darker was the theory of betrayal. Hours before the shooting, the 2 victims changed their plans, deciding last minute to watch the match at Monaghan's bar instead of another venue. Someone knew that. Former detectives believe it's no coincidence. One said, "If your name's above a bar and a big match is playing, that's predictable." But to time it this perfectly, someone had to tell them exactly when those two would be there. The aftermath was brutal. The next morning, Spanish media called it a mafia-style double execution. Police found bullet casings, blood trails, and stunned witnesses who said the killer's face never changed. No panic, no rush. Just purpose. Days later, flowers covered the bar entrance. The bar reopened under a new name, trying to erase the blood that had soaked into the tiles. But word spread quickly back home. Glasgow knew who'd been hit, and who was being blamed. At Bishop Briggs Crematorium near Glasgow, over 500 mourners gathered for a joint funeral. Coffins side by side, floral tributes spelling Dad and Son. Among the crowd were old faces from both sides of the feud, men with histories of their own. Outside, security stood watch. Inside, the families buried 2 more casualties of a war that never ends. While Scotland mourned, Riley sat in a cell in London. When he appeared by video link at Westminster Magistrates Court, he gave a small thumbs up to the judge, casual, almost confident. His lawyer argued that he feared for his life if extradited to Spain, claiming he'd be targeted by rival gang members inside Spanish prisons. The judge adjourned the case until November, and Riley was sent back to HMP Belmarsh. Spanish police insist he was preparing to flee to a paradise island with no extradition treaty, a last escape to disappear forever. He never made it. 2 dead men, 1 alleged hitman, and a feud that refuses to die. The Lyons-Daniel conflict began with stolen cocaine and pride, but now it's an international story. Decades later, the same names, the same grudges, and the same bullets are still flying. Only the backdrop has changed. Because this wasn't just another bar shooting. It was the Glasgow War, exported and executed under the Spanish sun. The victims didn't see it coming. But the gunman? He'd rehearsed it. From the jammed weapon to the tunnel escape, every second was part of a plan. He didn't need words, just a gun, a target, and old revenge that wouldn't die.